My name's Jeff Kirchick. I am the VP of Sales for allwhere, which is an IT asset lifecycle management software company based in New York City, about 45-ish employees. And I've been working in software sales for about 15 years, which has been my career. I have been fortunate to be a part of multiple exits. Spent half my career at a Y Combinator company called NextCaller, which was acquired by Pindrop Security a few years ago. I also wrote a book around that time called Authentic Selling: How to Use the Principles of Sales in Everyday Life, which I think accurately predicted the coming wave of artificial intelligence in the world of sales and how people would need to lean into a more authentic selling style in order to succeed. So that's a little bit about me. First of all, with the revenue leak, we want to make sure we have customers that are fully adopted, right? And so in our business, like, the way I think about even just all of your funnel metrics is like, winning by design, which is one of these large revenue consulting firms and one of the foremost out there, puts out this idea about the revenue bow tie. A lot of people think of revenue as a funnel. It's like a one-sided funnel where, we prospect the lead and then we close them and then that's it. But the reality is that there's an expanding funnel on the other side where we're trying to measure, how quickly that customer will see value and then expansion and things like that. And, the reality is that in any SaaS business, that the other side of that funnel, the customer success side, is really what your business is. It's where all of your revenue is, all the recurring business, the expansion, the growth, and so on. And so we want to be measuring that to understand certain trends. And, a lot of that will come down to, are we really checking certain boxes when we're making that handoff to customer success? I think a lot of times you'll find that the answer is no. You'll find that sales reps are really just eager to get the deal across the finish line. They might skip certain steps, and then what that means is that they're not going to expand on the other side of that funnel. And so I think that, the way that you avoid this from happening is by having a tight process. If you have a tight process, you'll never have to go back and fix this. But if you don't have a tight process, what you're going to inevitably find is that there's going to be certain trends amongst the customers who don't find full adoption. They were probably put through more of a rushed sales process, didn't understand the value of the tool completely, or didn't have adequate, pain implication along the way. And what you'll find is you'll be able to go back and diagnose that if you're actually tracking this across the full funnel. When I say full funnel, I don't mean just a closed one. I mean tracking the life cycle of that customer. I think the other thing too is that you want to build out a lot of different types of attributes for each client that you can measure. So for example, in my last company, we actually measured the digital strategy sophistication of the customer. The reason for that is, and this is a bit counterintuitive, but we found that the more sophisticated they were, the less likely they were to fully adopt our solution because they had their own in-house development teams that could build things on their own. And so again, this goes back to like how we target. If we're measuring that as an attribute, we're probably actually not going to focus our time on leads that are less likely to gain full adoption or even to close in the first place. So again, I'm sharing a lot of common themes here, but I think a lot of it is really about being data driven and doing this across the full life cycle, not just to the closed one, but also across the customer success life cycle as well.
My name is Kasey, Devine. I've been in sales leadership, go-to-market leadership for the past 10 years. Done a lot of different things. A lot of my career has been in the SMB space, relatively vertical agnostic because I've bounced around from vertical to vertical. But really, my experience has been in the human resources, tech, and outsourcing services space. So you think about a company needs an idea that you pay money for, cash flow and equity, liquidity, and people. I've really been helping through it from a sales and sales leadership perspective to answer the people question. If you're going to diagnose a revenue leak, go to the very beginning of your process, which is how you hired people. Go to the very beginning of your process, which is your company structure and incentives. Like that's usually where that starts. If you think nowadays it's a sexy term of GTM, go to market and all that, right? Well, nobody actually agrees 100% on what that means and what it should look like for every organization. And if you have a GTM leader, is that a fancy word for sales, or there's a revenue leader? Is that sales and marketing? You have enablement, you've got product, you've got customer success in there, right? And so like I think a lot of revenue leak comes because you assume two different things. Number one, that what you are expecting as a leader at your company of the teams, of the employees, is actually what you want to happen. And number two, that they are properly incentivized. And I'm not saying just throw money at them, but properly incentivized to go do the things that are right by the business. I think really like that's it. Like, and again, maybe I'm being overly opinionated here, but I think that revenue leak is a symptom. It's not actually the problem. The problem is something in your chain of going from complete stranger to retained customer. Something broke. Something is broken. And if you see leaks in the roof, you don't tear the entire roof off. You fix the leak, but you also try to find out why did it leak in the first place? Like, can I learn from this so that when I go install another roof, I don't have the same thing happen again? I think that's it. This is where I'll get quotable and opinionated. I don't think that compensation structures in go-to-market overall, sales and all of that have caught up to reality. And I think it needs to be better, like more creative and more holistic to overall business success instead of driving toward an individual KPI. Because every time I've had this argument with a peer in the industry, I personally can't wrap my mind around one KPI that you want to drive everybody to, because there's always going to be a problem there, because you can't really serve two masters. If you just drive toward revenue growth, for example, well, you're probably going to get a little bit sloppy. You may have churn on the backside of that revenue bow tie, all of that kind of thing. And so it's like there's two sides to every story. Go all the way back and address and start there and make sure the foundation of your assumptions and your go-to-market approach are even aligned. And then you can find out where the furthest down the line point in the chain broke, and then go from there. Resist the temptation to solve the symptom.
Excited to be here today. So yeah, I am Matt Wood. I've spent about a decade in SaaS, really helping scale revenue growth across multiple organizations and DevOps, cybersecurity, and data observability, specifically all the way from sub 1 million upwards of 100 million plus, resulting in 4 successful mergers or acquisitions. Yeah, I think it's like you mentioned, it's a holistic picture of all of these elements. Do we have the right sales stages? Do we have the right process in place? Do we have the right people in the right seats? And this is why I think it's also very important to have a very strong RevOps partner. And that's always, if I come into an early stage company, that's always my first hire, is making sure you have someone that is constantly analyzing this from multiple angles to find where are the leaks, how do we fix it, so you can really diagnose and pinpoint specifically here. Here's the gaps in process. Here's the gaps in pipeline we're bringing in, or who's in the seat. So really would encourage folks, if you're not leaning into RevOps, to absolutely do that. Because as the leader, you want to be driving strategy. You want to be spending a lot of your time recruiting, managing, coaching. And if you can have really your kind of right-hand person that's in there diving into the data, looking for where's the leak coming, then you can adjust your strategy accordingly to that.
I'm Nikita. I am the VP of sales at an organization called PartnerStack. We help companies launch and scale channel and partner programs across the board. Yeah, I think that's something that we've always typically done, is just, we've kept a really close eye on, deal progression and movement across the different stages, right? So what we've tried to consistently do is improve the percentages that kind of, between every single stage, right? And there's some consistency, right? So for example, MQ at a sales qualified, like a marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead, that's, that there might be a certain percentage that happens there just because it's early on in the cycle. But what we've really tried to do is continue to make sure that the percentages between like a sales qualified lead to sales qualified opportunity continue to improve, sales qualified opportunity to like a values and benefits stage continue to improve. And so, we're really looking at the funnel holistically and saying, hey, are there places where we can kind of improve those percentages and improve, driving, existing customers through, our funnel, make it easier for them and accelerate, that bringing them onto the actual platform. That's kind of what we've been really closest to. And then we just have, strong processes internally, right? Across, Gong call coaching, Gong reviews, through the actual pipeline management and Salesforce, right? And seeing, where are kind of our, what's our movement between stages of different accounts. Across those kind of the three different things, we're just keeping an overview of the entire pipeline. What, where are we, where's pipeline potentially, where are we losing it? Are we not going fast enough on certain specific deals? Could we, be more responsive with certain individuals as well too? All that's kind of coming up across the funnel through those that kind of reporting and view.
My name is Mark Van Oppen. I'm the Vice President of Sales for FusionAuth, and FusionAuth is a customer identity and access management product. We work with some of the largest brands in the world. We work with some of the largest end user populations in the world and help many of our customers deal with that login flow. So that spans all kinds of industries, but we help manage that user identity and implement a really performant, flexible, customizable, and secure system. Yeah, I think I'll have a slightly different perspective on this than most people, because I think a revenue leak is a symptom, not necessarily something that's explicitly being caused by a gap in the system or process. So I look at a revenue leak or a loss of pipeline value or a loss of customer value entirely coming back to expectation setting. So expectation setting in particular is what we talk about for even roles on the same team, right? The expectation setting between an account executive and a solution engineer is a living document that we have in our organization. And that makes sure that there's no misalignment in these two people that have to work in partnership to get a given deal done. The same thing goes when setting expectations with the customer throughout the sales funnel. So in early qualification, understanding the success criteria that you have to solve for and marching through that and being very, very militant about the alignment toward those expectations. And then there's no unknown, right? Unknown represents risk. And I think this revenue leak that you're talking about, this loss of pipeline value, is all attributable to unknown. And if you set expectations appropriately and you manage the project from initial conversations all the way through successful delivery and onboarding of that customer, then your expectations should be really well set, and you'll have very minimal revenue leak. If there's churn that is outside your control, you want to know about it way ahead of time, so it's not attributable to a revenue leak. You know it's coming, it's a force that's outside of your control, and you can then do something about it. But to me, the expectation setting is foundational, and that goes for existing customers as well as new.